Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Pretty good. You know, I'm still under quarantine. At the moment, my job was, the official word is that we're supposed to go back in 2 weeks, but the stay-at-home order in Michigan just got extended. So
right, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, hard to say, and like
hard to say.
It's like certain things are opening up, certain things aren't. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not quite exactly sure. I just know I've been working this whole time. So
sure. So I don't know. I have at least 2 more weeks off, possibly more. We'll see what happens.
Right. Yeah.
So I've been painting miniatures lately.
Yeah.
Like not a ton, but I painted 2 that came with a kit that I got for Christmas. And so I painted those 2, and then I also painted 2 miniatures that I printed.
Yeah.
One of which is my boy Ichi.
Yeah.
If something feels not completely finished about it and I can't quite put my finger on it, but I'm glad that I at least tried, because I can print as many as I want. So if I want to try again, I can paint another one.
Right, of course.
But it's pretty cool. I've got some more minis printing at the moment, and yeah, it's cool to finally see what all goes into painting a miniature. I'm not good at it. Like
please. We've seen the pictures, Gabe.
No, but like I've seen pictures of people who like do it professionally, and like it's like they're doing something. That's like a completely different medium as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, there are definitely some techniques that take a lot of practice. Like there's like wet blending and things like that.
Sure.
Or you could, people could be using an airbrush or something, and
maybe.
And I've used an airbrush and I've tried wet blending, and like I've gotten some decent results, but it's still nowhere near stuff you see on online.
Yeah. The kit that I got for Christmas, it just shows you the basics. It shows you like base coat, a wash, and dry brush, and that's pretty much all it shows you. So that's all I really know how to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a lot of fun. I definitely want to keep doing it even after I go back to work and everything. I'd still like to I came home from work, let me paint this miniature before I go to bed. Sure.
Yeah. It's a nice thing to do. I remember when I still was painting my orc army. It was when I was listening to the Game of Thrones audiobooks.
Okay.
And that was just a nice little chill out time. I was just painting orcs while listening to audiobooks. Is good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. One more thing about minis. So I've been printing a bunch of minis, and there was a little like batch of, I don't know, 7 or 8 zombie miniatures that I downloaded a while ago, and they came pre-supported, so they already had like the resin supports built into the 3D model.
Nice.
And that's awesome. Whenever I find that, I'm in love with that. So I immediately tossed it on the printer, started printing. However, either due to issues with my printer or issues with the models, some of them didn't print right. Like parts just didn't print, or they were like squished or whatever. And I learned a valuable lesson, and that is, especially when you're dealing with zombies, there's no such thing as a failed print.
Right.
Because I can take the top half of a zombie and stick it on a base, and that's a zombie miniature.
Right, yeah.
And it's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Or if it's like, one failed one way and one failed another way, you can just kind of like put them together or something.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think last episode we talked about, I was telling you to listen to the Adventure Zone. On our subreddit, Alistar the Minotaur has started a petition to get you to start listening to the Adventure Zone.
Is that right? Oh, yes. No.
So it's only got like 3 people on it. Our subreddit doesn't get a ton of traffic, but I think you know what you need to do, Jeff.
I'll have to look into that.
Okay.
Yeah, if enough people put their names on the petition or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you want to go ahead and get into this episode?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I want you to imagine that you've been having some plumbing issues on your property. I know that's,
on the
that's
the
hard
property,
to imagine.
Right.
But because this is a semi fantasy world that these Dragon's Horde intros take place in, rather than call a plumber, you just equipped your adventuring gear and you went down into the sewer yourself to sort out the problem.
Right.
So you're going along through the sewers and I don't know, you get lost or you fix the problem, whatever, who really cares? But while you're down there, you notice there's this old map that somebody scratched onto the wall of this sewer.
Oh.
And so you come up to it and you sort of like scrape away some of the slime and you see there's sort of like a star and it says you are here. And then you can tell, oh, okay, this is the way to get back home. But you see that there's another passageway you didn't know was there.
Ooh.
And do you know where that passageway leads, Jeff?
Where does it go?
It leads to the Dragon's Horde.
I was in my sewers the whole time.
The whole time.
Yeah.
There was actually a game that I played in a couple years ago. One of my work friends ran a short session where we either were given a house or we bought a house or something, and there was a like sewer connection, and we went down there and it turned out there was like a dungeon underneath our house. It was pretty cool. Anyway, so today's magic item was submitted by Jason E. Our good friend Jason submitted this, and this one is specifically for you, Jeff.
Oh, yeah?
This was in response to something we talked about some time ago, I think.
I see the name right now. Yeah, I get it.
Yes. This is the Achtung hide armor.
Yay.
This is a very rare magic item. This armor is the unfortunate creation of a mad wizard for his bodyguards. Crafted from the hide of an Achtung, it offers protection but has a terrible stench that won't go away. The stench gives the wearer disadvantage on all stealth checks, but gives melee attackers disadvantage on attacks against the wearer for 1 round, until they adjust to the smell.
Nice.
In addition, once per day when the wearer takes a critical hit, the tentacles on the Achtung armor activate, making attacks against anyone threatening the wearer for 1d4 rounds. Then it says the attacks has 2 tentacles at a +6 to hit and 1d8 +3 damage.
Cool.
So yeah, disadvantage on stealth checks, but attackers all have disadvantage on their attacks against you for 1 round.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And I especially like this little bonus effect. I don't know if I've ever seen something that gives you a beneficial effect when you get hit by a critical.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I kind of like that. Maybe that kind of helps balances, the enemies having criticals. I know you've expressed there is some issue with critical, like enemies having criticals.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think criticals in general favor enemies rather than favor the players. But
right.
But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, if you're fighting a group of 8 goblins, there's an 8 times as much chance that they're going to get a critical on you. So this would give you some bonus damage against them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat. I don't know if I've ever seen a magic item like that, and I would be interested to see what other sort of things could follow this model for bonus abilities.
Right, because I know in 5th edition, like sometimes criticals can be not as. The damage isn't necessarily going to be good.
Yeah, you just roll the dice twice, but if you roll low, you might end up with 2 1s.
Exactly. So you might do less damage than your average normal attack.
Yeah.
So having something that something that makes critical hits a little bit, a little bit more exciting, whether it's against you or not.
Sure.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
But in the form of a magic item, like when people want to introduce new mechanics, I feel like that's the best way to do it as a magic item, because you can always. You can always remove a magic item one way or another, if it's really bad versus hey, we're going to play with this new house rule.
Sure.
And then it ends up being terrible.
Yeah.
So
that's a good general piece of advice. If you want to introduce a new mechanic, consider making it a magic item before, as a way to play test it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. So I think this came up because you talked about, I think it was if you could have a fantasy creature of your choice as a pet, what would it be? And I think you said the Achtung.
Yeah, it's been my go-to for a while, just because I don't know. I feel like even smelly tentacle monsters need a little love.
Sure. Hey, is that a jab at me?
I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah. So I mean, there isn't really much else to this, but I think it's a really neat item. It's definitely got a good, interesting mechanic behind it, and I love the theming. It's just imagine what that armor would look like.
Right. Yeah. It probably would not look great.
Yeah.
It's just like have these like tentacles that are just like hanging off of it. Like, ugh.
I think in the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide, the Cloak of Displacement, I think, you can see that it has Displacer Beast tentacles like sewn into it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And yeah, that's what that makes me think of. I think that's pretty cool.
So it'll look something like that, but with but more like yellow
stench.
And slimy.
Yes. All right. Okay. Well, I think that'll do it for the magic item for today. So once again, that was the Achtung hide armor. Thank you very much, Jason E., for submitting that. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, or questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre or retirement village, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And before we go any further, we have a giveaway to give away today.
Ooh.
Today we are giving away a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1, courtesy of Crit Academy. Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1 is a great product. It's a D&D supplement with 25 character concepts, 25 encounter concepts, monster variants, magic items, player tips, DM tips, all from the Crit Academy podcast. It's a great product. I helped them write, and Crit Academy is great for facilitating this. So who is our winner of this great product today?
Our winner today is David C.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes. Congratulations, David C. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon. And be sure to leave Crit Academy a review. If you leave them a review on DM's Guild or Drive-Thru-RPG or anything like that, it'll help more people see their products. More people will see the other stuff that they've got for offer. So yeah, be sure to leave them a review, and they can continue to make good products as well. So thank you very much, David C. If anybody else wanted to enter this drawing, Jeff, they wanted to be like David C. here and win a free copy of this great supplement, how would they do so?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with unearthed tips and tricks in the subject line.
That's correct. And once again, thank you to Crit Academy for helping us, give out this great product.
Yeah.
And next up, I want to thank all of our wonderful patrons for supporting us during these difficult times. For anybody who's not familiar with Patreon, it's an online platform where you can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to the creator of your choice. And if you donate to us at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict, we have a few different tiers. We've got a $1 tier, $5 tier, $10 tier, and some of the rewards on there include outtakes. They include a monthly bonus podcast called InterPatron-Conflict. We've got a monthly Roll20 game. I think the day that this goes out is the day that we're going to be doing our next Roll20 game. So hopefully if you listen to this before, the moment it comes out and you want to join that game, there is still time.
Sure.
But if not, you'll have to wait till next month. So that hopefully that's going to be a lot of fun. We understand that times are a little tough right now, but we're super thankful to everybody who has continued to support us during the crisis that's going on right now. So thank you to everybody out there. And if anybody else wanted to support the show monetarily, go to patreon.com/interpartyconflict. And then one more thing, let me direct you to all the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. It's a podcast where Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast on the network. I've actually recently gotten a few listeners that have emailed us and told us that they found out about us from listening to Brute Force and Ignorance first.
Oh, so, nice.
Thank you to them. There's some great guys. We had them on our podcast as guests. Or really, at least we had Dan and Jake on here a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And also check out D&D Character Lab. It's a podcast where Garen and Dan made characters every week and pitted them against each other to debate whose characters were better. Enough with all that. You want to jump into some questions?
Yeah.
Cool.
Our first question comes from Spencer H. on email, and they ask, how would you handle fights against colossal creatures? Sure, every adventurer dreams of slaying a dragon, but is hacking it at its ankles really the best way to kill Smaug and his ilk? What would you offer a party fighting a truly larger-than-life foe?
Yeah, I thought when this question came in very recently, and my first thought was like, oh, surely we've talked about that before, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't think we have. I think that this is it's a great topic. I'm sure this is something that players and DMs have encountered. So yeah, I thought we could brainstorm about this for a little while.
Yeah. So what immediately comes to my mind is the game Shadow of the Colossus, which
yes.
I hope most of you are familiar with. If not,
go play it.
Go play it, or at least look it up to get it. Like find like a review online or something of it, because it's a pretty.
Sure.
It's like. It's one of those like milestone games where like, oh, okay, this changed the way that games are made in a way. Because there aren't any. The only enemies are these giant
bosses.
Colossi. They're basically just really big boss battles in most cases, and a lot of it is taking place like you're climbing the monster and hitting its weak points and stuff like that.
You're climbing the monster. You're looking at your environment and figuring out how you can use the environment against the monster.
Right. Yes, because like. It's like a giant towering monster with a really big like stone sword, and it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do against this when like his finger is bigger than me?
Sure.
Like, what are you supposed to do? So it's like, all right, well, spoilers for one of the Colossuses. Anyway.
A lot of people misuse the I ending, the I suffix.
Yeah.
But for Colossi, it is correct.
Okay, so one of the spoiler for one of the Colossi, although I won't say which one, is like you basically have to have him hit a stone that kind of like stuns him. So like he's got a giant sword thing or whatever, and he like if he swings at you or maybe I'm thinking wrong.
No, I think I've played that part of the game at least, and I think you got it right.
Yeah, I think there's something where you got to like have him hit a certain part of the terrain that then either stuns him or allows you to like get up onto him or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. You could take examples from that maybe, where it's more you're not necessarily fighting the colossal beast. You're more just fighting the environment in a way.
Sure. So if you are, I think Shadow of the Colossus is a great touch point for this. But I would say that when you are when you're fighting a big monster, the simplest solution, because I've got a few other solutions that are probably going to be a lot more work to make them work. Okay. But the simplest solution is the characters get up in front of the dragon. Yes, they are technically just hacking at its ankles or whatever, but you can describe it as being more than that. Because like I've said in the past, that D&D is always D&D is at its least interesting. It is at its weakest when it devolves into, okay, I rolled a hit, I do damage.
Yeah.
He rolls a hit, he does damage. She rolls a hit, she does damage. So although mechanically, yes, your character is walking up to this giant or whatever and just attacking whatever is within reach, yeah, that's technically what's happening, but you could describe, okay, you run up to the dragon tries to snap at you, and you use that opportunity to jump and grab onto one of its horns and hack the horn off, or something like that.
Right.
Or the giant, you stab it in the foot, but just so that it will, it'll reach down and try to grab you, and that's when you slash into its arm, or something like that. Mechanically, it can just be, I make an attack roll, I hit, I deal damage. But if you want it to feel like something more than that, it can be as simple as just describing the attacks as more interesting than just I attack its ankles.
Right.
Now, Shadow of the Colossus is a great example for what you could do if you want to put a little bit more work into it. Actually, another video game that I would use as an example, either Shadow of the Colossus or the original God of War games. Those
Okay,
were
yeah.
both around the same era, and those games were really about making the player feel very powerful by what they were doing. Maybe God of War more so than Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus, you don't feel powerful, you feel weak, but in spite of your weakness, you're able to defeat these giant monsters.
Right.
But so in Shadow of the Colossus, you are climbing on, terrain, you're climbing on walls, you're climbing on the monster themselves. You are baiting the monster into doing one thing so that you can get around them and climb up their back when they're not looking or whatever. In God of War, it is instead, you're just mashing on a button or whatever, but occasionally the game will take you out of your normal gameplay and it will instead make you do some basically a little quick time event. It'll be like, rotate the control stick really fast or rapidly press this button. And although that part isn't very interesting, the idea that the game would take you out of your normal controls and put you into an interactive cutscene, basically. And then that's how you actually kill this giant monster. Yes, you can hack at the dragon's feet, but after you do that a few times, then you go into a cutscene and you have to do this non-standard gameplay instead. So I think both of those can be examples for how to work giant monsters into D&D. So using the Shadow of the Colossus example, you can try to set things up ahead of time that the players will then be able to use. You might put the monster under a cliff and have that cliff have a bunch of rocks up on top that if players want to, they can climb up on top and push them off. They could, shoot a fireball up there to knock the boulders down. Something like that. Yeah. If one of the players has an idea, hey, I want to try to dive down into this pit in the ground and try to get him to reach down after me. And then when he's down there, stab his arm into the wall so he's stuck, whatever. So the rest of the party can beat him up, whatever. If you can come up with things that will let the players use the environment, and also if you are open to the players coming up with ideas on how to use the environment, that's going to be really cool. That's going to feel way more epic than just, okay, I attack its ankles, fight's over. If you're not willing to quite put in all of the prep, or if you're just not very good at that sort of thing, you can just turn it into something like a skill challenge. Like using the God of War example, I think skill challenges are pretty close in that, sure, you can have a round or two of combat, but then the giant grabs the fighter in its jaws, and now you go over to a skill challenge. The fighter can try to make an athletics check to push the jaws open. The wizard can try to, make an arcana check or something to use telekinesis to pull it back. I don't know exactly what example I'd use for that. But if you can turn it into a non-standard combat by using other mechanics, then you can describe that whole section as being like a quick time event cutscene like in God of War. It might be a little difficult to get it to work at first. You might have to do it a few times, to play test it and make sure that it feels good. But once you get it to work, that's going to feel really awesome. We hacked at its ankles for a little bit, but then the fight really started when we all got to use our special skills and everything that we don't really use. We all got to use them to take this monster down.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying. Every time we're talking about potentially new mechanics and stuff like that, my mind kind of goes crazy.
Okay.
Well, because I'm now thinking of interweaving skill challenges into combat, at the end of every round or something like that. Everybody picks a skill, but you can't use the same skill twice in a battle. And I'm just always overcomplicating things.
Yeah.
But cool idea with everybody every few rounds there is a skill challenge that is basically a little quick time event cutscene sort of situation. That does sound pretty good.
And even if it's as simple as, let's say you're fighting a dragon, the skill challenge is just to, cut the dragon's wings so that now it can't fly.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a much more standard fight. Yes, you're still kind of hacking down at the lowest part of it, but that sort of thing can still, it can be a satisfying transition to the fight.
Yeah.
Or a skill challenge of now everybody's up on its back. everybody's climbed up on top of the monster and now we're wailing into its head instead of its feet.
In World of Warcraft, on the Cataclysm expansion, there is a boss battle that is basically you're on the back of a giant dragon.
Ooh.
And it's like you are. It's the dragon Deathwing, and he's basically like he's got like this molten like he's got like molten armor, and it's like these like plates of metal with a bunch of like molten like lava and stuff underneath. And the idea is that you're peeling apart parts of his armor.
Sure.
You're attacking bits of his armor to expose a bit, and then you can attack like this. Like it'll basically be like there's like an elemental thing underneath it or something that you can attack. So you're like knocking off bits of his armor and attacking the weak spots, like, while he's like flying. And then meanwhile, like he'll be like he's turning left in the air, and so everybody's got to like move to one side, or otherwise they get knocked off or something like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
When I first read this question, one thing that did come to mind actually was World of Warcraft related, but it was something they didn't do very well back in vanilla, because like I started playing right before vanilla right before it came out with Burning Crusade, and there was one, if I'm not mistaken, there was one like end boss of a dungeon that was a flying dragon, but at the time the game didn't really have a good way of handling that. So melee characters basically just could stand under, like it was up flying above them, but melee characters just had to stand next to its shadow and just attack into the air.
Right.
And, like you could still hit it with melee attacks, even though it was flying above you, because the game didn't really have a good alternative for that.
Right. Yeah. You had to get like right up underneath it.
Yeah. I think that a lot of video games, want you to feel really cool fighting big monsters, but it is hard to do. Not just in D&D, it's hard to do in video games too. In the Dark Souls series, I feel like anytime you're fighting a big monster, you are fighting the monster, but more importantly, you're fighting the camera.
Yeah.
Because like there is this the game is not really designed for you to fight a giant creature, and so you are usually just hacking at their feet. And sometimes they'll move and then they'll be in front of the camera and then you can't see anything. In the later games in the series, the graphics are all so crazy that like every monster has a ton of hair and then the hair is getting in the way of the camera.
Right.
So it's not just like it's difficult in D&D. It's also difficult in other things. I kind of feel like we as a culture need to like move away from these sort of things until we get a handle on how to do it well. Because like, yeah, there is all these stories of like, oh yeah, the knight killed a dragon, but then in every sort of interactive medium, a single knight isn't gonna be able to kill a dragon. That thing's gigantic. He's attacking its feet or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because you have to basically like over exaggerate the actions of like the knight or something like that.
Yeah.
You got to go into like JRPG giant sword territory.
Sure.
Or where a slash, when they swing their sword, it's a giant slash through the air and it cuts through the dragon or whatever. You're doing like you wind scar from freaking Inuyasha or whatever.
Sure. So yeah, I think that probably the easiest option is just describe the attacks as something more than just attacking its ankles. If you want to put a little bit more work into it, you can make a skill challenge out of the battle. Maybe like maybe every other round is a skill challenge, or more often, less often, whatever. Maybe the whole battle is a skill challenge. That could work. And then if you want to put even more work into it, you can try and set up the battlefield so that there are specific things the players can interact with, maybe involving skill challenges themselves. Maybe everybody's got to work together to knock over that boulder, or got to make an athletics check to climb up the thing, and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And then try and make the whole battle, it's not just a fight against the monster. It's like a puzzle. They're trying to use all of the pieces to get the desired result.
Right.
So it's going to be a lot of work to make it like really, really work, but it's going to feel epic when you do so.
Our next question comes from Tori R on email, and they ask, what are your thoughts on a single D&D session having 2 people DM at the same time, especially if one of them is new?
Yeah, I think that this question is asking having two people that are like co-DMing the session.
Yeah.
It just occurred to me when you were reading it just now, maybe they mean like splitting up the group and having 2 people run 2 separate but connected games.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about that sort of thing in the past. But.
Yeah, although they say single D&D session, so I imagine it's like a co-DM situation, because like if one of them is new, the idea is like you have one experienced and one new, and it's sort of like a way to teach the new DM, how to DM.
Sure. And I think that's a great idea. I think that if you do have a current DM and someone else wants to DM, of course you should do whatever you can to encourage that. We're always in need of more DMs, I guess.
Right.
And having one person do like the role-playing part, and then have the other person do combat.
Sure.
And then you can, if one of them is good at a certain thing, they can focus on the thing they're good at. The other one can focus on the thing they are good at, or vice versa. Maybe you want to get better at the thing that you're bad at. The person who's bad at role-playing could try to do it while the other person is there to, help them out if they need it.
Yeah. 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 You can sort of like play to each other's strengths, that sort of thing. Or, like, although I don't know how well it would work, but you could set up something like, you have your DM and a DM's assistant sort of thing. Like they could be there to be looking up rules that come into play, or like to be prepping encounters before they get to it.
Yeah.
Like if the players end up going a different route than the DMs thought they were, the other DM can be like, oh, hold, they can go off and like get something ready real quick while the other one is sort of leading them on that path.
Sure. I think the film reroll does this, actually. After a certain point, they had a listener. Tim has been helping Paolo get games set up ahead of time. Like they come up with like a lot of the NPCs and story beats and stuff like that. And then I think he's usually on set, I guess. He's usually in the room, not playing, but just in the room in case there is something where they need to come up with more details for the game. And it seems to work for their show. I think that's really cool. It would definitely be a great idea if one person was totally cool with the like taking a back seat and just doing like the behind the scenes stuff. Mm-hmm. I think that could serve to be a really strong campaign.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, it can be a lot. I feel like it could be a lot of fun.
It can be, yeah.
To have an extra DM on the session.
But yeah, whatever helps out your group, I think it's a great way to do it, and whatever it's going to get more people into the hobby, I think it's definitely a good. I almost wish there were more like apprenticeship DM type things.
DM apprenticeship. That sounds yeah. Like you get like looking for DM to show me the ropes kind of thing, or
sure,
or like they're like you could put that into the. If you post up a group or whatever, looking for a group online sort of thing.
Yeah,
I was gonna say in your local shop, but
not right now. Yeah,
not right now. No. Like yeah, this is I don't see any real issue with this. Unless there's some conflict between the DMs or something, or if or if it's somehow like taking away from the player's experience, like.
Yeah,
because if it ends up being DMs interacting with each other, like they're both like talking as NPCs to each other.
That's a good point. You don't ever want to take focus away from the players,
right? So like it wouldn't necessarily. I don't think it'd be as bad as a DM talking to themselves as two different NPCs, because at the very least, like. They can still have fun with it, and like it might be entertaining to a group of friends or something.
Yeah. It just occurred to me. I think this could be the answer to parties splitting up.
Right. Yeah.
Because we've talked about never split the party, and not only because the party's going to die, but also because it splits the DM's attention. If you've got 2 DMs, and let's say one is the main DM and one is the new DM, if part of the party is splitting up to go do something that the Dungeon Master knows is a little bit less intensive or less important, I guess. Maybe that's not the right word. But if the party's splitting up, give half the party to the other dungeon master, go into the next room, and then have them play out what happens with that other group so that you can get both of them done at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely opens up your options as to what you can do.
Yeah.
Because like there are certain things that like a single DM might not be ready for or might not be capable of doing that the players might want to try. Like, certain things like splitting up the party or something that like, I don't know, like having 2 DMs might allow you to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to, I kind of want to see what, if any of our listeners have done this sort of thing, if it's worked out, if it's something that they still do. I don't know.
Sure.
All right. Our next question comes from Yodelea He Who on Twitter. It's always a good name. What are some tips to managing large D&D groups, keeping everyone involved, making their story important? Just bring a second DM.
Well, yes, that could do it. This is another question where I was like, surely we've talked about this before, right? And we've sort of talked about it. Like we've had questions where this was part of the discussion.
We've definitely discussed group sizes before.
Yeah, it's mostly been like, what's your favorite group size, or what's the largest group you've ever played with? It's never really been like, how do you do this manage? Well?
Yeah.
It is more work when you're running for a larger group. Like Jeff said, you could bring along a second DM and have them take care of part of the group for part of the session. That's not an option for everybody, but I was thinking that if you're going to be running a particularly large group, you really do need to learn to use your time well. You need to speed along combat because combat's going to take forever. A group of 8, each round is going to take at least twice as long as a group of 4, and more than twice as long as a group of 3. I personally really like a group of 3. I think that's like the perfect number for me.
Yeah.
But some people play really large groups, and with that, you really got to make sure that everybody's on the ball when it comes to combat. Everyone knows when their turn's coming up. They know what they're going to do on their turn.
Yeah, I think it's even like exponential too, because like when you have a larger group, you're sizing your encounters to fit that group's like difficulty basically, or challenge rating. So like if you got a group of 8, you might need, that many more orcs or whatever. So you gotta deal with more things.
Then you're taking more turns too.
Yeah, exactly. So it really could, having a large group can really bog down combat time.
The few times that I have run like a really large group, it's always just been for like a very short one shot. We had a game at our library over here that had like 12 players or something like that sometime a year or two ago. Another time I was running a game at a different library. I had like a ton of players. And in those cases, that's kind of a special case because I already know that I'm not going to be giving them a full session. So it's basically just a matter of give everybody one turn and make sure they really shine on their one turn.
Yeah.
But in a long-term campaign, you gotta work harder than that. You can't just give them one turn. You also have to focus on them story-wise. Like the question asked, you got to keep everyone involved. You have to make sure their story's important. I would say you kind of are going to have to try and consolidate whenever possible. If there are 2 players that have similar goals, make a story about both of them instead of just one of them.
Sure.
Because otherwise, you are spending twice as much time getting everybody involved that way.
Yeah, you gotta try a lot harder to fit everybody's story together so that you can kind of, kill as many birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Don't kill birds with stones. That's mean.
Sure. I've never run a game with a lot of people for more than just, like a 2-hour session. Like I've never run a long-term thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm not the greatest person to give advice for this. All I can really say is just like, it's going to be a lot of work. So make sure you do prep, make sure you are ready, make sure that everybody else is ready. Keeping up attention is probably going to be the most important thing.
Yeah, that's true. The more people, the more chances they're going to be distracting each other or having different conversations or bringing up jokes and stuff.
Sure. And I could be wrong, but I also feel like certain players might not be suited for a really large group. If you're the type of player that's like always getting involved, awesome. If you're the type of player that you just sit around, wait for whatever happens to happen, that might be, well, in some ways it might be better, and in some ways it might be worse for a campaign. I guess I don't know.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the kind of player who like usually is on the sidelines for most things, but when it's their turn, they'll take their turn, but otherwise they're kind of just hanging around, and that might be fine for them if they enjoy that. It's not that big of a deal, but if it's if they do want to get involved, they're just kind of shy about it, then having more people is not going to make that easy.
Sure. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. Good luck to whoever is willing to take on a large group, because, like I've said, that's not my thing. So.
Yeah, no, I think your advice to like try and consolidate things as much as possible, like try to find things like less things that work with more people as far as like getting them involved and attending to their character's backstory and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like you could kind of like. I don't know, you could do a thing. It's like, oh, the bad guy that killed your parents, Mr. Ranger, that is now your favorite enemy or whatever. He's actually this person's long lost, brother or something. Dun dun dun. Get very like soap opera with it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just because like you can connect, like if there's like an NPC involved in several backstories, you make them all the same NPC or whatever.
Sure. One thing that comes to mind actually, I was trying to think of TV shows that have had like a very large ensemble cast, and there's a good handful of them. One of them that does come to mind though, I remember noticing the structure pretty quickly, and there was this TV show. It's called Corner Gas. It is a Canadian sitcom, basically just about these people in this tiny little town out in the boonies of Canada.
Yeah.
And there are 8 principal characters, the same cast that had 6 seasons. They never changed any of the casts. So same 8 characters, the entire 6 seasons. They eventually made a animated series, and one of the actresses had died, unfortunately. So they replaced her with a similar sounding actress, but still 8 main characters. And when you have such a long running thing with so many main characters, there is going to be some sort of a formula. And I began to realize that every episode had 3 storylines. Maybe a lot of shows have like an A plot, a B plot, and a C plot. But this one, it was always 3 storylines. 2 of those storylines involved 3 characters. 1 of those storylines involved 2 characters. And then there would be 1 or 2 points throughout the episode where each of those would interact with another one of the storylines. And again, there are probably lots of TV shows that use this exact formula, but I specifically noticed it with Corner Gas.
Yeah.
And so if you have, let's say, 8 players, you might want to try and plan out similar things. Maybe not on a session-by-session basis, but storyline-wise, if you are looking at everybody's backstories and saying, okay, how can I work this into the overarching plot of the campaign? Pick 3 of them, link those together. Pick another 3, link those together. Pick the other 2, link those together. Figure out where is the first group of 3 going to interact with the next group of 3. That group of 3 is going to interact with the group of 2, and so on and so on. Now, of course, I don't mean like give them all separate storylines, because they are presumably an adventuring party. So maybe have their backstories all tied together that way, but they are still all working towards the same A story or whatever.
Yeah. So it's in this situation, it's even more important to get to know your players' characters and what their goals are and their backstories and what they really want out of their character, because you only got so much time to devote to all of them. So
sure.
Yeah, get the most out of your time.
Yeah. Again, it's going to be a lot of work. So good luck. Pay attention to your players. Make sure your players are active and paying attention.
Yeah.
And get a second DM.
Right. Yeah. Or get a second DM.
Yeah.
Assistant DM for hire.
Sure. All right. I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today. We do still have our social media questions, though. And our last social media question was, if you could have any D&D racial trait or ability, what would it be? Do you recall what your answer was, Jeff?
Can't remember specifically. I'm sure it was either like flying or water breathing or something.
I think it was flying.
Yeah. I would imagine it's like, of course, who doesn't want to fly? Flying would be great. Although I don't know if I'd want to have, I don't think there are any races that just fly. I think they all have to have wings or something like that. So tiefling wings.
You could be a beholder. There's that one Monstrous Races supplement.
Just a beholder. I could just levitate.
Yeah. I think I said dark vision. I don't know for sure. I didn't put a ton of work into it, and I still haven't put a ton of thought into this. So apologies.
Oh yeah, dark vision would be good.
Yeah, it's a good simple one. So over on Facebook, Sean M says, tinkering capabilities are a pretty cool rock gnome trait, but a dragon's breath weapon would be a pretty cool party trick. There you go. I didn't even think about being a dragonborn with the breath weapon.
Right. Although that could quickly end a party depending on where you aim it.
I suppose so. No. You got to be a white dragon or a silver dragon, and then oh no, we didn't bring enough ice.
Yeah, there's not enough ice.
Blah.
Oh no, my pool.
Now just chip at it and use the ice.
Right.
And the chlorine too. Kyle S says, it's hard to beat Halfling's lucky trait. Getting unlimited do-overs when I critically fail at something would be life-altering. I can only dream of getting a second chance on all my bad pickup lines.
Sure. Okay, yeah.
Now, here's the thing. I didn't think of this, or I probably would have said it, but now that I do think about it, I feel like I would not appreciate lucky because I wouldn't realize that I have it.
Sure,
it keeps you from failing. It doesn't undo a failure that already happened. Right. So I wouldn't realize that I had it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, maybe it's like there'll be situations where it's like I definitely should have flubbed that, but it just didn't. I don't
know.
So
because I'm sure that happens in my real life, and I just brush it off. So
or like, oh, that was lucky, and just kind of go on with it.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Nathan H says there are so many good ones. Gotta say either High Elf to get a cantrip, prestidigitation for cool factor, or mending for utility.
Sure.
Or the human variant, and I could pick up linguist and know 5 languages instead of 1.5. Well, hey, that extra half is still making you better than most of the people in the country.
Right, yeah, racial trait, just an extra language. That's
sure.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah. That's actually all we got on Facebook. Over on Reddit, Alistar the Minotaur says, halfling luck. I work in medicine and I feel pretty confident in my skills. But if I'm not feeling it someday and I roll a 1 on medicine check, I want to be able to re-roll because rolling a 1 means somebody might die.
Yeah.
I don't want that on my conscience. Plus, I can re-roll a 1 on less life and death matters too. Playing catch with my nephews and rolled a 1 on catching the football? Not today.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, they could definitely in the right person's hands. The lucky ability can save lives.
Sure. Scottish Unicorn Clan says changeling, change appearance. Maybe it's just the chaotic part of me that would want this. Think of the pranks you could pull.
Right.
And I'm gonna say that's a pretty good one. I didn't even think of that one.
Yeah, that's true.
Over on Discord, Philbo says, "I'll be waiting for someone to pick variant tiefling." Too late. Jeff already did. Stiltskin Kupo 84 says, I think I would take cast iron stomach. There are so many foods that I love to eat that are too spicy or too dairy or too acidic that I would love to be able to eat still, like when I was younger. I would just love to not have to pay for bad decisions later.
Yep. You know what? I think I might change my answer to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I miss spicy foods
too. Yeah. Dustin says, Elf Trance, the ability to be fully rested after 4 hours of light meditation would be a godsend.
Yeah, see, because like I think when we first brought this up, my initial thought was like, how do you do Warforged? Would it be I just don't need to sleep anymore? But I kind of like sleep, but maybe I don't need to eat, but I really like eating.
Yeah,
like don't need to breathe. That might be like, I feel like that would be stressful. Like if you just suddenly don't need to breathe anymore, you're like, but I want to.
Yeah.
Been doing it my whole life, and now what?
Well, I mean, is the implication here that you just suddenly gain the ability, or that you've had it your whole life? Have you always been a Warforged, Jeff?
Right there, I could just always be a Warforged this entire time.
Yeah. Floofy Shoob says the long lifespan.
Yeah,
and yeah, that I didn't even think of it like that, but that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Joe S says half orc, get up when you die with 1 HP. I'd be a stuntman and rich.
Doesn't say anything about lost limbs, though.
That's true. Also, someone could like punch me in the stomach and I would survive, but that doesn't mean I want to do it,
right?
Or for it to happen repeatedly.
Yeah,
I don't know. Hey, I don't mean to knock Joe S's,
that's
preference.
That's a good one though. Like it just like, yeah, you bring yourself back up.
Yeah. And Autumn Wind says, speech of beast and leaf from the Furbolg. Yes, I am now a Disney princess.
I like that. Yeah, that's good.
I'm actually not familiar with that ability, but that assuming I know what it is, that'd be good. That'd be a good one.
The Furbolgs are basically like the like perfect druid race.
Sure.
Like they're really good. They just make really good druids, and I think they have like some like once per long rest maybe they can turn invisible or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
And they have reach. They're one of those like sort of monstery races, but I think are they in Volos? I can't remember. But yeah, they like
either Volos or Xanthars.
They have reach. They can turn invisible. They have like some like extra naturey stuff or something. I might be confusing a couple races, but
yeah, they got regeneration. They can breathe fire. They can only be killed by a wish spell. You know, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
One of the characters one of the main characters in the newest Adventure Zone campaign is a Furbolg, and he doesn't have a name. Like it was a joke at the beginning that his people don't have names, but as a result, it's been like, I don't know, 6 months worth of episodes, and he still doesn't have. They just call him the Furbolg.
The Furbolg. Yeah.
There were a couple times where the other players like tried giving him let's call him Bud, and so like for a little while they called him Bud, but nope.
Just didn't take. He's like, oh no, thank you, you. I won't take a name, please.
And then over on Twitter, Stacy V says, as someone who has a vision impairment that causes night blindness, I definitely have to go with dark vision. So there you go. That's a good one. Yodelea Hihu says, Sentry's Rest hands down. I don't get much sleep anyway, and if I could still be listening to audiobooks or podcasts while I sleep, that'd be amazing. I would literally have no wasted time. I'm actually not familiar with that ability.
I think that is the Warforged.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Like sleepless thing. It's
Gotcha.
called Sentry's Rest. Yeah, because like I can't remember how it was in earlier editions, but like this one, there's like they still have to be inactive. Like they effectively sleep, but they're still alert. They're still awake. You know, they can hear things and see things and do stuff that's not like strenuous.
Okay. And then one more, that's Carl with a K. I'm assuming that this is a typo, but he says Fry ancestry. I'm assuming it's Fey ancestry. I just think it's funny because his avatar is a Simpsons style drawing. And so that makes me think of, it's like he's the ancestor of, or he's descended from Fry from Futurama.
Right, yeah. Philip J. Fry ancestry.
Exactly. Anyway, sorry. So Fey ancestry, I hate that I need to sleep. Dark vision would be useful too. Otherwise, why would so many D&D races have it? And yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
So that was last social media question. The next social media question that we have is, imagine your dream gaming room. What are some features you would want to include? So we're talking, gaming table with an LCD screen as the tabletop. We're talking mood lighting, fog machine, spooky sculptures on the walls. I don't know. Whatever you think would be your perfect gaming room. What would that be?
Giant open warehouse. with where everyone has wireless VR headsets.
Oh, dang. Okay.
So that you could have virtual dungeons, and because it's a big open warehouse, you can have them be like you're physically walking through them.
Yeah. Well, see, here's my counterpoint, Jeff. If this is your dream gaming room and you've got a warehouse, forget the VR, have an actual dungeon in there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, but I mean, you'd have to rebuild a dungeon every time.
No. It's big enough. You've got 20 dungeons in there. You've got the world's largest dungeon in your warehouse.
Yeah, I mean, like, you like escape room situations or something.
Yeah,
but no, I think being able to put your players in a virtual dungeon or something, that'd be pretty neat.
Yeah,
which I mean, you wouldn't necessarily need the warehouse, but like being able to actually physically walk through and not like bump into stuff, kind of thing.
Sure. I would like some way to easily communicate with the players without them knowing it, like. A couple different ways of doing this. I've talked about there was this like ultimate gaming table thing that I remember seeing, 15 years ago. And part of the table there were these like slots where you could roll a ball. You could put a note in a ball and then roll it to a specific player.
Yeah.
And then they could open it up, see the note, and then roll it back to you. That would be cool. But I've also heard of some people getting really, really cheap smartphones or tablets that like aren't good for anything except they just have a messaging app on it that can locally connect with other people so that you can send messages specifically to one player, even silently. You don't have to roll a ball. It just goes directly to them. Right. Some kind of setup like that where I could have a table. If I needed to, I could send information specifically to one player. I guess you could do that with smartphones nowadays, but something built into the room,
I feel like if it's built in the room or table or something, and it is just like it's a dedicated device that leaves less room for like distractions. So if you're using your own phone, you could, while you're checking your message from your DM, it's like, oh, there's actually a message I missed from my friend. I'm going to look at that,
Yeah.
And like, you can get some fairly cheap tablets nowadays that like, they're not going to be anything special, but for just messaging. Mm-hmm. That's you're going to spend, you can definitely get a tablet for well under $100. Sure.
All right. So I'm interested to see what sort of things people come up with. I'm curious if they're going to go quite as sky high as a warehouse with VR headsets in it, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah. Like, dream gaming room. Like if I had a staff, a team of people that could physically create a dungeon every week or whatever.
I guess maybe I should say, like, realistically, like if this is something that could actually happen, if you had money and time to do it, but whatever. I don't need to quantify that. If someone wants to give us, some sort of crazy, super technologically advanced thing, awesome. Fine. I'll take it. All right. Well, that'll do it for our questions for today. Before we close out, though, let's wind down a little bit. Let's think about the people who have built the dungeons that we explore, who have probably died and are in the foundations of those dungeons nowadays because of bad work practices back in fantasy times.
Yeah, I don't think it was OSHA back then.
There you go. OSHA stood for Orcs, Sahagans, Orcs, Slods, Humans. There you go. Let's remember all of those as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Pretty good. All right.
Yeah, OSHA stands for Orc/Human.
Okay. Our funeral pyre story for today was submitted by SMC Adam on Reddit. As a DM running out of the abyss, I threw in some demonic items. That's a good start, I just want to say. One was a jelly bean, which stopped the eater from needing to eat or drink.
Oh, nice.
It was an artifact of the slime demon Jubilex. And actually, sorry, small little side note here. I had to Google whether it is in D&D. It's Juiblex, Juiblex, but in Pathfinder it is Jubilex, Jubilex. Are
they effectively the same thing?
Basically, they're both like slime demon lords.
Okay.
But I think Juablex might be copyrighted by Wizards of the Coast.
Okay.
So right. I don't know. Anyway, so I was gonna autocorrect this, but then I Googled it, and no, Jubilex is a thing. Anyway, so Jelly Bean stops you from needing to eat or drink. It was an artifact of the slime demon Jubilex, and when the eater rolled a natural 1, they horrifically coughed up a slime monster.
Ooh.
The party sorcerer died after rolling several natural 1s, spawning 3 black puddings around her, which, just for added insult, kept rolling critical hits and consumed her in endless black jelly.
Oh, no.
After that, no one else decided to try the jelly beans.
You know what? I really like this as a it's a sort of like Dragon's Horde thing. I like this jelly bean. I think it's great.
Okay.
It's like the cursed Dragon's Horde.
Sure. I mean, to be fair, a lot of the items that we cover are cursed.
That's true.
Anyway, so I guess let's raise a glass in memory of the party sorcerer who reminds us you can't eat your pudding if you didn't eat your meat. Clink. It's from it's from Pink Floyd.
Right, yes, Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
You, laddie.
Anyway, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Horde, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. We are on Facebook. We are on Reddit. We have an Interparty Discord. We're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. We have weekly social media questions, and if you answer them, your answers might end up on the show. You can check us out on the podcatcher of your choice. We're on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all sorts of stuff. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, you can check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes. Speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit anything for it, you can send that to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
Oh, sorry. I'll let my my assistant DM take this one.